Well, folks, as you probably have guessed, this review is about the Transformers Classics line Ramjet. And if you noticed in the very beginning with my shamelessly poor acting, Ramjet likes to fly into things. That's how he earned his name. And that's all he ever did in G1, is he flew into stuff. He was more dangerous to himself and to his fellow Decepticons than many of the Autobots were. Because of that, because he would fly into just about anything without discrimination. That was his thing. I had the original G1 on my list for a long time, but I never got around to getting him. Maybe one of these days I'll get the reissue, but I have the Classics line, and he really shines in this rendition, this version of him. And as you can see, he is modeled not after a real-life jet, and neither was the original Ramjet. He was a modified aircraft. And in the original Seekers line, in Generation 1, the fuselage, meaning the nose cone and the center section body right here, all the way back to the thrusters, was the same as all the other Seekers, such as Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, Thrust, and Dirge. They all shared the same center section. The difference was the wings. And the cone heads, unlike the original three, Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker, the cone heads had different wings and were not based after any actual existing fighter. So it's a love it or hate it kind of design. I didn't care for Dirge too much because he lacked the upper vertical wings, and he just looks stepped on to me. He also lacked the extra thrusters that Ramjet has. So he looks squished. And even the Classics reissue, he looks squished to me. So I never really cared for him that much. So I liked 5 out of 6 Seekers, which is a pretty good number. And if I can find the G1 version at a good price, complete, whether it's a reissue or original, I don't care, I'll buy them. But anyway, this review is about the Classics one, and he's very faithfully replicated. Well, I shouldn't say replicated. This version of him is very nice, very similar to the original. He has a similar color scheme, although with some differences, like there's more gray here, where it was all this darker burgundy color, as well as there was no yellow, mustard, gold color here, and there was no stripes here. But otherwise, very nice. And they did change the nose. And the nose on the Conehead is actually shorter than Starscream's. And I will go and get him and show you. And this is Starscream's nose. And as you can see, if I can put them right up next to each other here, Starscream's nose is a little bit longer in front of the fuselage, in front of the canopy, than Ramjet's. So there is some design differences in that respect. Now, also there's a little bit difference in transformation, but he looks very good as a jet mode. Very nicely detailed. And he shares the same kind of design in the middle as well. Now to transform him, you take off these things here, and they do fire seriously well. let me go get that. Now I gotta say, that was pretty impressive. This thing shot like you wouldn't believe. It shot all the way across the room. It bounced off that cardboard. And I think it actually moved it a little bit. And it went across the room to the next, to the hallway. That's one heck of a missile. Note to self, don't make Ramjet angry. So anyway, you start by pulling the legs down and separate. Now, with Starscream and Skywarp, their large wings were right here. But with Ramjet, his large wing is back here. So all you have to do is turn this thing around 180 degrees. Like that. Same thing goes for this side right here. Very nicely done. And then move that out just a bit like so. Do the same thing on the other side. That forms his legs. And then you flip that down just like Starscream and Skywarp to form his feet. And these, he's the only one that he's got painted wheels. I think Skywarp's is painted too, but I think he's molded in color. But his are painted. So you can push those in to form his man boobs and his vents. Then you're going to pull this back, the whole thing, like that. Same thing, flip the arms out. You're going to pull this down, turn it around, and then you're going to see that little, this arm here, just shove it down, just shove it in there. Alright, shoves in there. And before you finish doing that, it's easier to turn the head around. This is the cool part with Ramjet. You don't have to pull out the nose bit. This part just turns 180 and there's his head. Seal that up. Seal the deal. Now his hands are a little bit more difficult to pull out because I've only done this for him 2 or 3 times that I've had him, and he's still very new. Well, that one came out well. And then with his cannons, again, you can attach them to his hand. He can hold them, but again, that's not very G1-ish. So you just put them on his shoulders, okay? That one goes right there. And I tell you, man, this guy looks good. There is the Classics line. Ramjet. Close-up of his head. As you can tell, he is a cone head. And it's getting a little on the blurry side, and I apologize for that. I don't know why it's not focusing. But his head, his face is very dark. But it's very nicely detailed when you see it in person. And as a comparison to Starscream, here is a comparison with Starscream. And because of the way they executed him, I give him a 9 straight across the board. Ramjet was never really one of my favorite characters. I did like him, but not as much as Skywarp. Transformation is good, although I wish they found a way to deal with the back wings a little more. But it's an improvement over the Generation 1 design, so I give it a 9 all the way across. That's a pretty good score. I mean, still 5 stars. So anyway, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. and I'll see you guys later.